Hello, I'm Riley Carlson, and this is Al Jazeera live from Doha. Here's what's coming up. U.S. forces hit Iran for a second night. Tehran responds with strikes on U.S. military assets in Bahrain and Jordan. The architect of modern Qatar, Father Emir Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, is laid to rest in Doha. He passed away aged 74. A massive fire at a packed bar in Bangkok kills 27 people. Survivors say the room filled with smoke in a matter of minutes. Also ahead.
I'm John Holman in Acapulco, Mexico. This place was once regarded as the world's murder capital. Now it's not. Coming up, I'll tell you how that changed.
U.S. forces have carried out attacks on southern Iran for yet another day as the standoff over the Strait of Hormuz intensifies. The port cities of Bandar Abbas, Sheikh, and Jask have been hit. Qeshm Island, off the coast of Iran, has also been a target. Iranian media says at least one person has been killed and 4 others wounded in strikes on a water pumping station in Mashhar near the Iraqi border. In southwestern Iran, a fire engulfed a building in the city of Omidyeh. The U.S. Central Command confirmed that it hit dozens of targets in Iran overnight. CENTCOM earlier confirmed U.S. forces began launching more strikes against Iran to continue degrading their ability to attack civilian mariners and commercial ships freely transiting the Strait of Hormuz. The commander-in-chief has directed the strikes to hold Iranian forces accountable. Iran's Revolutionary Guard say they've hit U.S. military assets in Bahrain, Kuwait, and in Jordan. Bahrain's Interior Ministry confirmed that air raid sirens were sounded. And Kuwait's army says it is engaging with hostile area targets inside of its airspace. Tawhid Asadi is live for us in Tehran. But first, let's bring in Hamza Mohammed, who's joining us from here in Doha. Hamza, Gulf states are coming under attack once again. What more do we know about the targets that have been hit here?
Riley, shortly after those American strikes across Iran, sirens went off in several countries in the region. In Bahrain, the Interior Ministry called on people to take shelter. They also advised people not to be in open spaces. Shortly after that warning, we've seen a statement from the Iranian military, from the Iranian army, saying that they targeted Sheikh Issa Air Base. What they said is the target of those Iranian strikes were maintenance facilities and also command and control center for U.S. military drones. We also heard sirens in Jordan, and in Jordan, the Iranians are claiming that the target of those strikes were fuel depots and also ammunition storage. In Kuwait, as you mentioned a short while ago, there was also a warning from the army saying that they were engaging hostile aerial targets and also warning people not to panic if they hear any loud noises, as that is their air defense systems engaging those projectiles. The Iranians are saying that they targeted radar systems and air defense systems at Ali Al Salim Air Base. That's what we know so far. We're waiting more on as we get.
Okay, Hamza, stay with us while we bring in Tawhid Asadi, who is live for us from the Iranian capital. Tawhid, once again, we're hearing Bandar Abbas, Sheikh, Qeshm Island. These are places that have been continually hit in these U.S. attacks. Explain to us why they are repeat targets here from the U.S.
Basically, these are important locations, and it was yet another night of the continued strikes by the Americans targeting these cities. Not only these cities in Hormuzgan province, but also other cities. But still in Hormuzgan province, we've got 4 locations. Qeshm Island, the largest one in the vicinity of the Strait of Hormuz. Bandar Abbas, one of the most important ports of the country, and also Sheikh and Jask. And they are important militarily speaking, as some of them hosts some military bases, radar systems, and also geostrategically significant because of the very fact that Iran is trying to place authority and control over the Strait of Hormuz, and these are important locations in relation to that. Also, commercially speaking, some of these places, including Bandar Abbas, are critically important. But it's still, as I mentioned earlier, it's beyond those 4 cities. In Khuzestan province, we've got several cities witnessing the continued airstrikes by the Americans: Abadan, Shadgan, Omidiyeh, Mahshar, Behbahan, Dezful, and the vicinity of Ahvaz. In Mahshar, 1 person was killed, 4 others injured after an attack on a water pumping facility. Of course, we also know that in Markazi province, in Khondab city, attacks were reported, and that is important, seeing the very fact that it hosts the heavy water facility. Also in Sistan, located in the southeastern parts of Iran, we've got reports of explosion. And on the other hand, we know that the Iranians are talking about retaliatory strikes targeting the U.S. military bases across the region.
Okay, Hamza, back to you in Doha. Obviously, all of this is due to this competing narrative happening between the U.S. and Iran over the Strait of Hormuz. How important is this strait for the countries around it, for the Gulf states, and how is this impasse affecting them at this point?
Well, this waterway, this passage, it's responsible for almost a quarter of the global energy supply. This is where all those energy that you see reaching Europe, Asia, and in other places, that's where they go through. It's an economic lifeline, not just for the countries in the region, but also for countries far away. And the more strikes that we see America carry out, the more Iran says this passage will not be open. A few days ago, what we saw were Iranian delegations in Oman trying to find a way forward, trying to find, a middle ground that's acceptable both to Tehran and to Washington. But the more Iran strikes the countries in the region, the more this becomes difficult. Yesterday, we saw strikes in Oman, in several places in Oman. Oman summoned the Iranian ambassador. So what you see is, if Iran strikes these countries in the region, these countries would not be very keen on pushing
We've got 4 statements, 3 of them coming from the Revolutionary Guards or IRGC, also 1 statement coming from the army of the country, in which there is a common message about Iran's control and right to actually implement authority over the Strait of Hormuz. But speaking of the scope of these attacks, is according to the statements that we have, just a recap into what we heard so far. First, they came out to confirm the attacks on 2 vessels. They say that those 2 vessels were stopped after illegally navigating through the Strait of Hormuz with their transponders turned off. Also, IRGC came out to confirm attacks on fuel depots and ammunition storage facilities in Jordan, Prince Hassan Air Base. Also, they came out to confirm that the aerospace forces of the Revolutionary Guards targeted the drone command and control center and alongside other U.S. military assets in Bahrain and Sheikh Isa Air Base in particular. Meanwhile, they came out to say that a radar system alongside other military assets were targeted in Ahmad al-Jabbar Air Base and also Ali Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait. And last but not least, it was also the army of the country confirming that they have also targeted some military assets of the United States in Kuwait as well. Also, we hear a very strong message of resilience and defiance from all these statements, saying that in case of the continuation of the American strikes, Iran is going to respond in a more crushing manner and in a stronger manner compared to the previous waves of strikes.
Okay, Tawhid Asadi reporting live for us from Tehran, and Hamza Mohammed in Doha. Our thanks to both of you guys. Earlier, my colleague Rashad Salamat spoke to Alan Eyre, who served as a key member of the U.S. negotiating team for the 2015 Iran nuclear agreement. He's also a distinguished diplomatic fellow at the Middle East Institute. Alan Eyre says the escalation in hostilities between Tehran and Washington over the Strait of Hormuz is regrettable, but predictable.
Iran has made it quite clear that it's not willing to relinquish control of the strait. It sees it as its main strategic deterrence. And this is something that the U.S. is not yet or willing to accept. So forget about talking about the nuclear issue. This is the main speed bump that has to be negotiated and navigated if we want a resolution for the nuclear issue. And right now, I don't see that happening.
Well, Alan, it would seem that the two sides are now taking intractable positions.
Exactly right. And the U.S. is again, doing what it does best, attacking Iran militarily because we do have military supremacy. But the unfortunate reality, Rashad, is that no matter how much we strike the coastal areas, we cannot degrade Iran's potential or sufficiently degrade Iran's potential to threaten shipping in the strait. So Iran can, in effect, close or at least seriously constrict traffic through the strait.
Qatar is observing a 4-day period of public mourning following the death of the father emir Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. Funeral prayers have been held in the capital Doha for the former leader who died at the age of 74. Sheikh Hamad is widely regarded as one of the key architects of modern Qatar. The country experienced rapid economic growth and significant global expansion under his leadership. Al Jazeera's Zain Basravi reports from Doha.
The nation's flag flies at half-mast over the Amiri Diwan, in honor of the man who built modern Qatar. The official announcement of the passing of former Emir Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani came Sunday morning.
بقلوب مؤمنة بقضاء الله وقدره.
With hearts that believe in God's will and decree, the Amiri Diwan mourns the passing of the nation's esteemed leader, His Highness the Father, Emir Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani.
Following evening prayers, the man known as the Father Emir, wrapped in a simple shroud in keeping with Islamic practices, was carried on the shoulders of relatives, including his son, the current Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. An Emir burying an Emir, but also a son burying his father. Following funeral prayers at the state mosque, he was laid to rest in Lusail Cemetery in Doha, a simple ceremony for a man with a vast legacy.
The Father Emir is a father for all of us. He never fell short with the citizens and residents in this land. He developed Qatar in all fields.
He will be remembered for an era of remarkable change in his country, transitioning Qatar from a small Gulf state with almost no global profile into an energy giant and influential diplomatic actor. Messages of condolence arrived from allies and rivals alike, reflecting the respect he commanded. Most notably from Iran's president, whose country, hours before the announcement of the emir's passing, launched fresh attacks on U.S. targets in Qatar.
The late Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, the former Emir of Qatar, played an influential role during his tenure and throughout his blessed life in strengthening the brotherly relation and friendly cooperation between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the State of Qatar. His contributions and memory will always remain honored in the hearts of the peoples of our two nations.
The development of vast natural gas reserves helped transform the country's economy. The wealth that followed funded new roads, ports, hospitals, and schools, while helping raise living standards for generations of Qataris. Under his leadership, Qatar also pursued a more independent foreign policy, positioning itself as a mediator in regional and global conflicts. The foundations of Qatar today, confident, wealthy, and internationally connected, were largely laid during his rule. His greatest legacy may not be any single building, investment, or international event. It was changing the way the world looked at Qatar. In less than 2 decades, Sheikh Hamad transformed a small Gulf state into a country with a voice far larger than its size, into a player on the world stage. Zain Basravi, Al Jazeera, Doha.
Leaders from around the world have been paying tribute to Qatar's father Emir. Saudi Arabia's King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud said the late ruler, quote, gave so much to his homeland and its people. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said he worked closely with the father emir and witnessed his sincere efforts for the peace of the Islamic world and the stability of the region. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his thoughts are with the people of Qatar as they mourn the father emir's passing. And in India, the government has declared a day of national mourning starting on Monday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the father emir a visionary leader who guided Qatar to high levels of development and prosperity. Chase Untermeyer was the U.S. State's ambassador to Qatar from 2004 to 2007. He reflects on his relationship with the late emir.
My family, and I stress family because we benefited from the hospitality of His Highness and his magnificent consort, Sheikh Hamad bin Nasser Al Misned. So we spent a great deal of time with them. And I got to know the emir not just as the head of state to which I was accredited, but truly as a friend. He was warm, he was affectionate, he was kind, he had a marvelous sense of humor. In many ways, he was a reflection of his people who have those same traits. So as a result, we could speak candidly as friends can and as representatives of our particular countries.
Still ahead here on Al Jazeera, Ukraine steps up its assaults on Russian oil. Drone attacks are reported at an industrial zone, and more Russian ships come under Ukrainian fire.
Authorities in India are bulldozing Muslim homes and businesses, calling them illegal encroachments. Critics say the demolitions are targeted.
The government doesn't care. They treat us Muslims like second-class citizens.
101 East investigates India's bulldozer justice on Al Jazeera. Holding the powerful to account as we examine the US's role in the world on Al Jazeera.
Examining the impact of today's headlines.
Iran still holds all the cards with the world's economy, and they're not giving that up.
Setting the agenda for tomorrow's discussions.
It's hard for me to capture for you how big this protest is, but I can't see the end of it yet, and it's just everywhere you look.
International filmmakers and world-class journalists bring programs to inspire you.
There's a saying in African context, if you educate a girl, you educate the whole society.
On Al Jazeera.
Hello again, you're watching Al Jazeera. Here's a reminder of our top stories this hour. U.S. forces have carried out attacks on several Iranian port cities overnight. Bandar Abbas, Sheikh, and Jask have all been hit. Keshem Island off the coast of Iran was also a target. Tehran is responding with strikes on U.S. military assets in the Gulf and in Jordan. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says they've hit U.S. military assets in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. Bahrain's Interior Ministry confirmed that air raid sirens were sounded. Kuwait's army says it's engaging with hostile area targets in its airspace. And the Jordanian military says that it shot down 4 Iranian missiles. A funeral prayer has been held for Qatar's father emir, Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, who's died at the age of 74. He's widely regarded as one of the key architects of modern Qatar. Sheikh Hamad led the Gulf state for 18 years. Mohammed Jamjoom takes a look back at how he reshaped Qatar's domestic and global footprint.
The father emir, Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, was the man who took a small peninsula and turned it into one of the most influential nations on earth. Born in Doha in 1952, he was educated at Britain's Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, before rising through the ranks of Qatar's armed forces. Named heir apparent in 1977, he spent nearly 2 decades running the country's day-to-day affairs before taking power from his father in a bloodless transition in 1995. What followed was one of the most remarkable transformations in modern history. Sheikh Hamad bet everything on Northfield, the world's largest offshore gas reserve. Within a decade, Qatar became the largest exporter of liquefied natural gas. Under his rule, the economy grew more than 20-fold. A quiet Gulf state became a global financial power. But he understood that wealth alone does not build a nation. Within months of taking power, Sheikh Hamad launched the Qatar Foundation, bringing the world's leading universities to Doha. He scrapped media censorship, abolished the Ministry of Information, and in 1996 launched a television channel that would change the Arab world forever, Al Jazeera. For the first time, Arab audiences heard voices their governments didn't want them to hear, the opinion and the other opinion. As Qatar's international profile grew, so did its diplomatic ambitions. Under Sheikh Hamad's leadership, the country established itself as a trusted mediator, helping to facilitate dialogue and negotiations in conflicts across the Middle East and beyond, a role that would become a defining feature of its foreign policy. When popular uprisings swept parts of the Arab world, Qatar adopted an active regional role through diplomacy, humanitarian support, and extensive media coverage. In Libya, it joined the international coalition enforcing the UN-mandated no-fly zone. Its approach attracted both praise and criticism, but reflected Sheikh Hamad's belief that Qatar should play an active role in Middle East affairs. And no people were closer to his heart than the Palestinians. In 2012, he crossed into Gaza, the first head of state to break the isolation of the Israeli blockade. He brought with him $400 million for hospitals, homes, and roads, and a message the world could not miss. Gaza, what many thought impossible, the right to host the FIFA World Cup, the first Arab and Muslim nation to do so. 12 years later, in 2022, that vision became reality when Qatar successfully staged the tournament, bringing the world's biggest sporting event to the Middle East for the first time. But perhaps Sheikh Hamad's most remarkable act came in 2013 when he did what Arab leaders rarely do. He gave up power, voluntarily. At just 61, he handed the reins to his son, His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, telling his people it was time for a new generation to lead. No crisis, no pressure, a peaceful, deliberate transfer of power, almost without precedent in the region's modern history. It earned him the title by which he would be known for the rest of his life, the Father Emir. Even after stepping down, Sheikh Hamad remained a respected national figure, offering continuity and support during Qatar's continued development, while allowing the new leadership to chart its own course. Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani leaves behind a nation transformed, richer, louder, and prouder than the one he inherited, a country that learned under his rule to think beyond its borders. The father of modern Qatar, and in many ways, the architect of its rise to the global stage.
Bandar Assaif is a professor at Kuwait University and he's associate fellow at Chatham House. He says that what stood out during the Father Emir's years in leadership was his push to empower women to play a more prominent role in society.
Now, Qatar is the highest labor force participation rate in the Gulf. According to the World Bank gender data, it stands at 61.9%, and that's very high, even for global standards. And it's also, Qatar is a pioneer in granting women's suffrage. It was a second to Oman by doing that early on in 1998, and you saw them participate in the 99 municipal elections. And I think there's a lot of affinities to what Sheikh Hamad has done throughout in his tenure. And the Sheikh has worked very hard in investing in human capital, in alternative energy, politically in a constitution. I certainly see a lot of affinities with Kuwait. So he came in with a referendum to found the constitution in 2004. We did the same thing here in 1962. You find also the role in mediation, which is a very active Gulf voice, has continued ahead with Qatar hosting that early on during his time, and it continues to do so. And ironically, the bloodless transition of power that happened in the abdication of the late Emir, we saw something similar in Kuwait in 2006 with the creation of the Father Emir role for our former Emir here between 2006 till his passing in 2008. So there are certainly many parallels, and it speaks to the Gulf's destiny as a common space where they want to share aspirations that meet the people and that move things forward. I think it's something that we need to hold dear to our hearts, to see how the different countries, the different governments across the region try to serve their people as the late Emir has done in his tenure.
A fire at a pub in Bangkok has killed at least 27 people and injured another 63. Rescue services say the fire had already burned through the building by the time they arrived. Al Jazeera's Tony Chang has the latest from Bangkok.
A huge jet of flame flares out from the door of a Bangkok pub. A lucky few manage to escape, but the narrow exit and the wall of fire traps many more inside.
The fire was very, very strong. When I got here, people were scrambling to get out, but not many people could. I think a lot of people were stuck inside.
According to eyewitnesses, sparks started shooting from an electrical box. The fire spread in minutes. Although firefighters responded quickly, the ferocity of the blaze and restricted access held them back. But Thailand's Prime Minister says it wasn't the flames, but the thick, acrid smoke that did the most damage.
Many of them were not able to make their way out because they went to the back of the building, tried to hide themselves away from the smokes and flames in the toilet, and that's where we found most of the bodies.
As firefighters moved through that part of the building, the grim evidence. Bodies of those who'd fled into the toilets trying to escape the choking fumes. As the dead pile up on the street outside, questions about how the fire spread so quickly and why so many were trapped inside.
There was an exit which will lead you to a big open space there, but at the exit there was a sign saying staff only, and it was locked.
Investigators already on the scene. This is not the first deadly fire in a busy Bangkok entertainment venue, where safety regulations are frequently ignored or poorly enforced.
The firefighters have now moved on, and they've been replaced by street cleaners who are trying to clear up. This is a very busy intersection of Bangkok that in an hour's time will be jam-packed with commuters. But still, many people wondering why accidents like this keep happening. Tony Cheng, Al Jazeera, Bangkok.
At least 6 people have been injured by Russian shelling in the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia. Military officials said high-rise buildings, cars, and a hospital have all been damaged in the attacks. Zaporizhia has been targeted multiple times in the past week as Russia steps up strikes on urban areas. Explosions have been reported at a Russian oil depot near the city of Stavropol. Images show a tower of flame coming from an industrial zone. And Ukraine says it attacked 14 Russian ships in the Sea of Azov on Sunday. Kyiv says over the last week it has destroyed 90 ships belonging to Russia's so-called shadow fleet. Those are aging tankers which often sail under false flags to evade international sanctions on Russian oil. It's the latest in a series of attacks on ships near Russian-controlled Crimea. The cleanup has begun in eastern China after the most powerful storm to hit the country this year. Over 2 million people were evacuated from their homes as Typhoon Bavi approached. It caused flooding and widespread transport disruption. And although the storm has weakened, it is expected to continue to bring heavy rain to many parts of China over the coming days. In Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum says homicides have fallen by 46% since she took office. Critics agree that homicides have declined, but they say rising disappearances raise questions about whether violence is truly falling or simply changing. John Holman reports from Acapulco, the seaside port that was once one of Mexico's most violent cities.
Images from the recent past in Acapulco streets. The seaside town in southwest Mexico was at one point known as the world's murder capital. But the homicides are down now, says Claudia Sheinbaum, the Mexican president. Not just here, but across the country. She claims a 46% drop since she took office. Authorities in Guerrero State, where Acapulco is located, say that here that's due to more coordination between federal and local government and a new willingness to hit criminal rings from the top down.
Right now, there are investigations, operations and detentions. More action, and that means lower crime stats. There's a real focus on extortion and homicides.
In Acapulco, where myriad street gangs have long disputed every corner, the police have been using drones and heading into peripheral communities to break up cells. Locals have noticed the difference. Zapata, where Jesus has his motorbike parts shop, has long been one of the most violent neighborhoods.
Before, I thought the police themselves colluded, but lately we've had patrols 24 hours a day. It's not like they disappear at night. They're here around the clock. Security is really good now, which wasn't the case before. There used to be a lot more crime.
But that doesn't mean this town is now a safe haven. Instead of 6 to 7 murders a night here in Acapulco, it's now gone down to about 6 to 7 murders a week. And it's much the same on the national panorama. It's not that homicides have disappeared in Mexico, it's just that they've gone from a very high level to something that is perhaps a bit more manageable. And that's according to government statistics. Many analysts question those statistics, saying there's no independently verifiable count. Some accuse the government of fudging the stats, although most agree that murders are down to something.
It's basically for a simple sentence